What's that? That's not peace. Stop peace.
Yeah. Good morning. It is Tuesday, August 24th. We're here for the regular board meeting in Franklin County. Full slate of commissioners, Administrator Keith Johnson, clerk of the board, and a room full of guests. I thank you for coming. Please stand, and I'm calling the meeting to order. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, first thing on the agenda is approval of the minutes, August 10th, 2021. Is there any corrections, revisions?
Mr. Chairman, I suppose it falls to me once again to point out that you're conducting yourself in a manner that is not only inappropriate, it's unlawful.
Excuse me. I'm asking for approval. I'm asking for approval of minutes. Is there approval of minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I have the floor.
No, you don't have the floor. I have the floor. I've asked for approval of minutes.
Sheriff, I'm going to ask one time. I just need
Commissioner
to know
Peck,
whether or not you're going
Commissioner
to
Peck, you are not the chairman. You are not the chairman, Commissioner Peck.
You should leave the county.
Please, keep it in order. I'm asking for approval of minutes for August 10th, 2021. Is there any revisions, corrections, or additions? Seeing none, the minutes are approved. Next, we'll go to the commissioner updates.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
point of
Johnson.
order.
Point of order.
I believe it is in the county's best interest, your best interest, and in the people's best interest that we have an executive session for you to receive legal counsel.
Already received it.
Don't need any other?
Nope.
Intend to conduct the meeting without a mask and without
Yes,
these
sir.
simple masks?
I am. Yes.
Okay, well, I'm not going to participate in an unlawful meeting where you
Well,
incite people,
Now, hang on. Order.
where you incite others to violate the law. I don't have to.
I'm not inciting others. It's their free will.
Forgive me.
Commissioner Mullen, will you conduct the meeting with me?
It is my understanding that if we conduct the business and conduct a meeting, allowing people to come in here unmasked, that nothing that happens today will be legal. And I would ask Sean Sant to stand up.
If you're having a land use action today,
Let's see the law.
don't count on that permit being valid.
Let's see the law.
It's not,
Let's read the law. Not jump around. Let's read the law.
well, the law
Go ahead and cite
the law
Either
is,
one of you radical.
Order.
Sheriff, I'm going to ask that if you cannot maintain the order of this meeting, we're going to ask you to leave. I will say that if this meeting is conducted with people in here not wearing a mask, anything that happens today will not be legal. And there's people that have time invested for discussions that are going to happen today. It's nothing that I voted for, but I did take an oath of office to represent the people in my community. And the people
Please.
voted Inslee this power. Like it or not, it's no different than a posted speed limit. If I want to speed, that's my choice. It's not legal. And the same thing is going to happen today. This meeting is going to be considered illegal, and anything that happens today is not going to, it's not going to count. It's just a waste of our time, and I would ask Sean Sant to help explain it better than what I can. I don't like it any better than you. I don't like wearing the mask, but I did take an oath in office to follow the law.
Take it off.
Please.
This isn't a protest.
Sean Sant, please address the issue.
I just wanted to confirm that the chairman, as well as other members of the board, did receive my email outlining a memo of the legal analysis for purposes of today's meetings, similar to an email that was sent last year. I recognize we have new members of the board, but I wanted to make sure that I included that memo as well, just for background, and wanted to find out. I would reopen the opportunity if the board chose to go in executive session. We could further discuss the legal merits or any legal questions going forward, or I could simply address kind of the issue that I believe Commissioner Mullen has brought up, as well as Commissioner Peck.
Mr. Sant, you've already went over the legal issues with me in my office. I'm good with those. I'm good about the repercussions upon myself. I serve this community also. You're seeing a vast majority of it in here. They are concerned about a mandate becoming law. And I know that our legislature supposedly gave him this authority. As citizens, we don't accept that. And we want civil disobedience in this room to make a point. We cannot have our God-given liberties taken away by a governor, flat out.
Well, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that probably more than you know. But unfortunately, when I was elected to represent the people as well, I took an oath of office. I have a bar membership in this state, and that's very important to me, my family, not just me. My family attended law school with me. They attended the military with me. That allowed me to go to law school following my service. So this is an investment for me personally, obviously, but I've had to reflect upon the oath of office that I took. And the oath of office is very similar to the oath that each of you as elected officials had taken. It basically says, I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington and all local ordinances, and that I will faithfully and impartially perform and discharge the duties of the office, whichever office it is, according to the law and the best of my ability. I firmly believe that given the opportunity, and we've reviewed the order, as you all have, the proclamation 20-25.15. I think it's important to note that this was not some kind of power grab that the governor took upon himself. This was power that was designated and authorized by the legislature as recent as 2019. And I recognize we have one of our state reps present in the room. He could confirm that he as a legislative member participated in that vote. It was almost unanimous.
Mr. Sant, can I ask a question?
Yes.
What is the supreme law of the land?
The Constitution of the United States.
There you go. And we're upholding the Constitution right now.
Well, hold on. So let's go back to that. All the other laws that come out of the supreme law of the land, the Constitution of the United States, includes the state of Washington's Constitution as adopted under the 10th Amendment. Basically, the Constitution grants majority of all the rights that we enjoy to the states. The states are allowed to have these experiments of liberty, to be able, if you could be quiet, please. And when you're given an opportunity.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's part of respect that we share as
Yep.
Americans,
I'm so
to
sorry
give
about that.
opportunity to people to share. Thank you.
I apologize.
So anyway, the states are granted, and that's why not every state is unique. Several states have different variances of the emergency order. One of the things that I highlighted too, just so everybody's aware, President Trump initiated a national emergency, and that was back in March of 2020. That national emergency continued for a year. President Biden followed Trump's leadership and extended that order. And so we have a national declaration of emergency that authorizes states to funnel federal aid and support in the treatment of the COVID pandemic. That was what President Trump started. That's what President Biden has followed. Governor Inslee, whether we like him or not, the legislature had the opportunity to restrict that authority, to limit it to 30 days, to grant. There's a provision of certain duties, the administrative duties that would affect law or statutory issues. There is a 30-day prompt. So if it's out of session, the governor has an opportunity to then have to go to the four-corner leadership. And right now that would mean the leader of the Democrats and the leader of the Republicans in the House and Senate and get 4 of their signatures to continue that authorization. This order is not under the 30-day provision. It's under the first section. And so that gives the governor the authority, when it's deemed reasonable, and during a state of emergency. And I recognize that a lot of us may disagree with, well, wait a minute, is this reasonable? And the question that we have to look at, as me, as the county's representative, again, I do not represent a particular person in the county. I represent the county body here. And when I have to look at the laws and the challenges that I might need to raise in a court of law to be able to defeat that, I look at the other cases that have been filed. There's been approximately 30 cases that have been filed challenging the governor's authority on various prongs of his proclamations. One included the mask mandate. And Mr. Chairman, I think you're familiar with one of those challenges. I think you brought that forward. Those have all been unsuccessful to date. And when I look at the legal risk for the county of one, I'm looking at opportunities. Can we challenge this? And what I have to look at is I have to look at the facts that I would be presenting in court. I've tried many murder cases. I've tried serious cases before in this county. And I recognize the most important thing that I have to show to a court or to a jury is evidence. And I have to be able to gather that evidence and be able to convince a court that not only is the law on my side, but the facts also support the following of the law. And so one of the things that I've looked at is if I was going to challenge this, especially right now, what is the evidence that I would want to bring? I would want to have support from our local health district. I would want to bring in the CEOs from our hospitals. I would want to bring in information from our hospitals, and I would want to see. I've known people personally that have died of COVID, so I can't say that, hey, this is somehow some fake disease. Maybe there's arguments that's overblown, but right now, currently in our hospitals, we have a third of the patients that are there with COVID.
Okay, so let me ask you this.
And hold on.
Order. Sean, let me ask you this. Has there been any regard to personal health of individuals? I have a form that I got from a doctor that I cannot wear a mask. I'm being forced to put a mask on when I have health issues that I can't wear one. I have that.
That's tip the iceberg.
So the problem then is we, again, going back to the position that we have as an employer.
So
Again,
my personal health don't count.
it does count, and there's an option for you as well. There's an option for anybody that chooses not to follow the law to participate remotely, to equally participate over the phone. And so what I'm simply advising this board to do is that based on this proclamation and the language therein, here's the greater concern that we should all be concerned of. And this is what I've shared with you, is that it's not going to be me that's going to be reviewing whether or not this is an illegal meeting or prosecuting you for violating this law. You're going to let Bob Ferguson, who
Yep.
I think most people probably in the room don't probably agree with, but you're going to defer to Bob Ferguson to review this, and you're going to refer to the governor, because remember, the governor put in the last part of the proclamation is probably the concerning language that I have. Further, if people fail to comply, I may be forced to reinstate additional prohibitions established in the earlier proclamations. So my concern is this: if we don't follow, I would hate to have the governor's office or the attorney general's office say, look, based on the actions of this elected body, the governor now is taking further actions and harming our businesses in our community, putting us back to some phase one or phase two. And I'm just advising you, because the problem is we as elected officials, we did take an oath, not just to support the Constitution, but to follow the laws. And this is part of the law. Whether we agree with it or not, it was duly passed through our legislative body. And I recognize we're on an uphill battle with feeling that our rights and our concerns on the east side are heard. But that's the process that was set out by our founding fathers. And if we're not willing to follow it, if we're not willing to follow the law, even when it's not convenient or agreeable with us, then we are basically creating a Chaz zone in our county. Because this is really no different than, we all criticize the actions.
No,
that
we're
were going on in
creating a
Seattle.
sanctuary county, and we're gonna uphold our sanctuary with this out of control tyrant that we have in the governor's office right now. You say our founding fathers, they gave us and they recognize that our unalienable rights were given to us by God, not a government, not a president, and not a governor. And if we want to risk our life, then we can.
So let's talk about when we say it's unconstitutional, until a court says or grants a stay. Well, okay, let's play with that one. If we get to all decide what the Constitution means to us, then is that really liberty or is that anarchy? And what is it? What is the difference?
8 times, right outside.
Hey,
8 shots.
we have public
That's where you're
comment.
going.
I thought you said you would respect and you would take public
I'm
comment.
jumping on him too. I'm not trying to disrespect anybody. I'm so sorry. I'm
Well,
so
you are
sorry.
disrespectful.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I'll just shut up the rest of the
And
time.
that's the problem. We need.
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
We need-
My hearing is bad.
We need to learn how to get along with each other, especially in times when we have disagreements.
That should be Governor
In my.
Inslee's
I agree with
speech.
that.
Okay.
I agree
Well,
with that.
let's make a statement right here
But
then.
let's make a statement and follow the law, and then we could go out on the steps of the courthouse and we could say, look, we need to get this changed. We need to talk to our reps. We need to get the action done where it needs to be. If possible, we need to start the initiative process. If enough people want to challenge this, they could start that initiative
Who's going to
process.
start that, Sean? I say we do right here, right now. Start it.
That's not our jobs as this legislative body. You could certainly
It's their
participate.
job. They're here.
They're here. They could get that started.
And
all
they're
they want.
seeing everything that's going on right now. These are your
That's right.
constituents that voted you
Exactly
into
right.
office.
And that's exactly who should be driving this, the people, the constituents. I have a duty to protect this body, and that's my job as attorney, is to protect Franklin County. If we do things that's going to invite labor and industries to file a complaint, some of you are business owners, you know what that can do. If I decide that I want to go into a restaurant and just plant my ashtray on the table and decide to smoke, it endangers that business owner's right to stay open if they don't take enforcement action. That's kind of the same thing here. If they don't enforce people washing their hands before they go back and prep your food, that's also a violation that could be fined. That's the kind of laws that we're talking about, is that this has been given to the legislative body, has said, look, we authorize labor and industry to enforce the will of the people, which is the elected body's passage of laws in the RCWs. And so when we disagree with the law, we need to take a stand and we need to challenge it in the right way. We can't, but we can't do it as this particular body and as the employer of several employees in this courthouse who may have family members who are immunocompromised or have other ailments. Then they need to be allowed to work in a safe environment. And that's consistent with other laws. It's consistent with the proclamation that cites the health and safety of workers. And if we openly advocate violation of this, it opens us, as well as you as an elected official personally, subject to recall based on malfeasance.
I'm ready for that, Sean.
Okay, I'm just saying, that's fine if that's you, but again, I'm looking out for following the law to protect the other employees of the courthouse who are not making those decisions. Other people come to work every day and they have kept this county open. They have done their jobs at the risk of their own health or at the risk of their family members' health, but there's an expectation that they're going to comply with the law. So that's all I'm asking this board to do. I'm making that record. I've given my
And I have
legal
some of those
memorandum.
people call me and thank me for making a stand, because they've had it too, that work right here in this building. They've
Okay.
called and thanked me.
But the problem is we can't simply say, look, this law we're going to follow, this law we're not. And that's really where we're at.
And that's
If
where we have a
wanna change-
problem. You
And so
think a
we need to-
mandate is a law, and you're saying that he's got this authority. How long does his authority last? Because they have changed that, and he can be forever, Sean. Are you ready to live underneath this rule forever?
Under section 1, so long as the argument is that there is an existing state of emergency. Right now, with the numbers where we are, I do not have the available evidence to be able to go to court and say, look, this governor has exceeded the state of emergency. Our hospitalization numbers are higher than they've been. And that's the kind of evidence I would need to be able to challenge it in court. If I go to court, we've already had court rulings that would say, if I bring in action without any additional evidence to challenge the governor's authority, I'd be subject to sanctions. And that's critical. Those that don't understand what sanctions means that the court's going to say, Mr. Sant, your argument is frivolous, and we're going to sanction you because you're not raising any legitimate argument before the court.
Is that a government of, by, and for the people?
The government by and for the people is the government that was duly elected and passed the law back in 2019 and gave the governor the authority. That was a duly elected action from the elected people from this body. Whether they knew it or not, they elected the representative government to represent them in Olympia. And if, when we come to a point where we disagree with that, now is the time to go back to Olympia and say, look, we need to change this. Now that we've seen this in action and we don't like it, let's change the law. Let's put a 30-day time limit on the governor's order under Section 1 rather than just on Section 2 and change the law. That's what we do. That's what the founders did. They got together with a bunch of different ideas at the Constitutional Convention.
I believe they picked up their arms against the king to get that freedom.
Yes, but guess what they did? They focused on the unity of creating a nation, and that meant that they had to give and take. And that's the issue we have to do, is we have to focus our efforts in the appropriate manner. Let's go to the courthouse. Let's go to Olympia. And let's go to Olympia and let's make those challenges. Let's create an initiative. If people are here and they want to do the initiative process, let's do that. But when we get to a point where we say that, look, we could decide what laws we are going to follow and what laws we are not going to follow, that's tyranny right there. Because at that point, there is no constitution, because everybody could just say what their constitution applies to them. And that's where we get, that's where we go down a path of losing our liberty, even more so than this mask mandate right now. So
The vote doesn't count. The voting system is broken.
you're gonna get your chance up here, okay?
You
No.
a lot of good subjects. I
Well,
really
you're
like
gonna
what
get
you're talking
your
about.
time.
I
You're gonna
appreciate
get
your
your time.
passion.
Thank
brother.
you. Appreciate it. So I would just ask this board to recognize you have two different seats. You represent this board as the elected body of Franklin County. We cannot allow essentially a meeting that is deemed to be illegal and contrary to the law. I fully support everybody's efforts here to be able to voice and challenge it. Let's do that on the courthouse steps. Let's invite the media down here. Let's invite the other.
Order, please. Let him speak.
Let's invite the other elected officials in Olympia to come here and join us and be able to get on the courthouse steps and be able to say, look, enough's enough. Let's change this.
Okay, so
But legally, for us to happen today, and again, focusing on the liberty interest of people in this county, someone has a land use action that's before this board. I'm sure they have spent time, hours, and
Yep.
money, and probably cost for their own attorney fees to put that together, to get this board to present it so that a vote could take place on it. If we go through with an illegal meeting, that could potentially undo that action. Think about the developers that we've had before this board. If we had a project that had 120 plats and they start plowing dirt to go forward with that, but it was termed later because someone challenged the opportunity to be able to voice their opposition to it, and they couldn't do so because we continued in an illegal meeting, then that could possibly undo that entire project. And that's the concern I have, is I'm trying to protect, even though we might have disagreements with the mask issue right now, it's much broader than that, and it could undo a lot of the legal work that would be done in this board. So I'm asking the board to follow the law as much as we might not like it. Put the mask on for the sake of our.
if I put on a mask, then the meeting's going to be official.
You put on the mask, and we have to.
It's not official meeting. We're just talking.
Please.
Can you defer to the chair, please? Yeah, thank you. So what we would have to do is wear the mask consistent with the law and ask the participants. We, as conducting a meeting, cannot allow those that are present to be here
Let me ask the
unmasked.
participants, are you willing to put on a mask? Are you willing to leave so that we can conduct the meeting?
No.
Okay,
If Sean Sandfly represent us, the people, we'll see what happens.
let's open it up for public comment. I want to hear first of all from our representative.
You're gonna hear from me first.
Oh, am I? You got your mask off.
And take it off so people can hear me,
Thank
Oh.
all right? So just points of clarification. You all have the right to grieve and bring grievance against your officials. They're sitting there, okay? Secondly, there's the word law being passed around. Wearing a mask is not a law.
Thank you.
Okay?
Amen.
There is a violation according to RCW that says if you don't wear your mask because the governor mandates it, that you can or could be charged with a gross misdemeanor. Obviously, to be charged with a gross misdemeanor, this man would have to take you and submit it to the courts, and they'd have to charge you with that. It's not a mandated arrest. And as the sheriff, I'm not going to arrest anybody for it. Okay? What I do believe you all need to take into consideration is part of what Sean's saying is it's not going to be a legal meeting unless we try to follow the edicts of what the governor's office is saying. So my suggestion, so that we can keep it orderly, is you address your grievances to your government. And then once that's done, then we could go to the next step and run an orderly meeting and go from there. I asked as you do that you do so respectfully. Don't step over the boundaries of decency, and make sure you're not putting yourself into the criminal realm where you might get yourself arrested, okay? So everybody just gotta remain calm. You all have opened this up, so grieve your government. Tell them what your thoughts are, but do it respectfully, do it orderly, and we'll go from there.
Thank you.
I don't want to have to throw anybody out of the meeting or anything like that, so maybe we can approach it in that process if the body is willing to listen to that. And do that.
I think we can open it up for public comment right off the bat, if the board approves this, and I approve it.
Sorry, Brad.
No. Sheriff.
Do the other commissioners agree with listening to the public?
I agree to listen to the public, but I want everyone to understand, I don't like this any more than you do. But I think that there's a different avenue that we should take. We should encourage everybody to vote and vote accordingly to what you feel is the right avenue to go forward. I don't like the mask. I don't think it does any good. That's my opinion. But if it's going to delay this meeting and delay someone's work and effort, I'm willing to stand up for that person so that we can get their business done.
What people seem to have overlooked is that the meeting is already unlawful. People who may have wished to come in and give testimony on a land use action may have intentionally not come to the meeting, may have come to the meeting and departed, any number of scenarios. The point is simply this: whether you like the governor, I'm personally not a fan, it is very clear that the state legislature, including Representative Clippert standing here, voted 99% yes, all parties, to give him that power. He's exercising the power the legislature, our representative republic, gave him. You gave him, I suspect. So the simple fact that we're playing this game, that the first part of this is not part of the meeting, and we're going to have public comment, which obviously is part of a meeting, and then we're going to break it off, simply doesn't work.
Why do you not want to listen to your people, Brad?
So that's the simple fact of it.
People, Brad.
The simple fact of it is,
Why do you not
whether you
wanna listen
like
to
it or
your people,
not,
Brad?
it's not a lawful meeting, and the interest
You know what?
that
You're
I have
fighting
to-
for mandatory vaccines. Nothing you say has any merit.
Sheriff?
Yeah.
Nothing you say has any merit. You're a joke.
So with that,
So there is in fact a problem when you incite people to join you in violating the law. So,
What happens when?
So, no, this isn't-
mandates
this-
start
excuse
rounding
me,
people up and taking them to concentration camps? When
excuse
does it
me,
stop?
this is not a debate, and I'm not going to have any interest in arguing back and forth with people about constitutionality. I'm sure there's other veterans in here who wore a uniform. I did for 2.5 decades. I don't need to apologize to any of you for any constitutional matters.
okay,
I'm following the law. I'm not going to participate in an unlawful meeting. It's in the interest of the citizens of the county not to participate in an unlawful meeting
Just shut your mouth.
and having any kind of public testimony or comment when the board's in session is an unlawful meeting.
okay.
So unless the chair is going to relent, and it doesn't sound like he is,
I appreciate
And
your
unless Mr.
comment.
Mullen intends to leave as well, and I take it you intend to stay.
Hold your little
That,
thought.
I should not,
Appreciate your comment.
point of order, you shouldn't assume anything.
I'm sorry, it sounded like
There
you
you
were
go.
staying. I'm going to excuse myself.
Help
You all
yourself.
have a nice day.
Stay right there.
That's your free
Stay
will,
right there.
Commissioner Peck. That's your free will. Now, sit down. Commissioner, Mr. Clifford, would you be willing to come to the mic and start this public discussion?
Yes, please. I want to hear from.
And how is it that we have 90% of the legislators voting to give Inslee this power? Did they not dangle our Second Amendment rights in front of the legislators in order for them to pass this?
Yes, they did.
That's how they got it to pass. Because they said they'd back off on taking our Second Amendment rights, and as soon as they got it passed, they went right back up to our Second Amendment rights. Their word is not good. Mr. Clifford, are you willing to address the crowd?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am. As an elected official, I would love to allow the people to speak first, but if you want me to go first, I will at your request. It's up to
Please,
you.
thank you.
Okay. First of all, let's address the issue of the vote. I've heard my name mentioned a few times today. I will publicly apologize to each and every person here and each and every one who might be watching online. You're right. I can't deny I took that vote. But I've heard other legislators say on television, on radio, that when we took that vote, we had no idea that COVID-19 was coming down the tracks and that Governor Inslee, or any governor for that matter, would use emergency powers for this long.
Well,
We
now
were
that you've
thinking-
seen what's happened, how are
we
you
were
going to
thinking-
reverse it?
I would have voted no in a heartbeat.
I mean, how do we move forward? Because this is not,
I sponsored a piece of legislation last session that limits the governor's powers to 30 days without legislative approval. And obviously, the majority party did not hear my request or my bill that I put before them. I'm calling now for an emergency session so the legislature can take away Governor Inslee's emergency powers. It has gone on way too long.
Thank
And
you.
we are a constitutional republic. We are not a monarchy, which he seems to think we are. And so I apologize for that vote. I had no idea that COVID-19 was coming. We were thinking landslides, snow, floods, that type of thing when we gave the governor, not Jay Inslee, the governor, those types of emergency powers. So my apologies to you. I did take that vote, but never would have imagined that he would use it in such a way. So let's just very quickly, let's go to, because we talked about the Constitution, got both the Washington State and the U.S. Constitution in my hand. Let's go to Article 1, Section 1 of the Washington State Constitution. So number one thing that your founding fathers in this state put in your Constitution. Governments are established to protect and maintain, anybody know what the last two words are? Individual rights. Governments are established to protect and maintain individual rights. So the whole purpose by your Washington State Constitution, the very first thing they put in there, well, actually, we the people of the state of Washington, grateful to the supreme ruler of the universe that we've already talked about, comes before that. First, they acknowledge God, and then they say the number one job of government is to protect your individual rights. And that's why I'm here today, Mr. Chairman, to talk about our individual rights, which Governor Inslee seems to ignore completely and thinks he's got to do his state mandates. Let's talk very quickly what Abraham Lincoln said in the Gettysburg Address, just a couple sentences. It is for us here, and that's why I'm here today, Mr. Chairman, dedicated to the great task remaining before us, take increased devotion that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Last two more points that I would share with you, Mr. Chairman. These numbers come as of August 3rd. It's now August 24th. I just sent a text while I was standing there to a staffer in Olympia to give you more recent numbers. As of August 3rd, 2021, 93.6% of Washingtonians have not tested positive for COVID-19. 99.64% of Washington State's population has not been hospitalized for COVID-19. 99.019% of Washington State's population has not died from COVID-19. 94.38% of those who have tested positive for COVID-19 have not been hospitalized for COVID-19. And 98.73% of those who tested positive of COVID-19 have not died of COVID-19. And since that date, kids that's under the age from 0 to 19, 0 outbreaks in schools, and 0% have died of 2% have been hospitalized. So I don't think when we talk about the evidence, I don't think this evidence supports the mandates, and that's why I choose to practice my individual rights. Lastly, Declaration of Independence. We talked about our founding fathers. Our founding fathers said in our Declaration of Independence, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with their creator with certain unalienable rights. You already said that. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Exactly, from the consent of the people, the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I'm here and to stand for and protect the individual rights of the citizens of Washington State as stated in our Washington State Constitution. And I'm here without a mask on. And I'm here asking that our state legislature, because not only can the governor call a special session, so can the Speaker of the House and the Senate Majority Leader. They can, in fact, call a special session. I'm asking them right now today on this speaker and this microphone and in front of whatever cameras are watching me, please call a special session and let us, we the legislature, use our constitutional republic to take away Governor Inslee's emergency powers.
Thank you. That is why I asked Representative Clifford to go first, because he is so well versed in the Constitution and what it stands for. The mic is open. Please introduce yourself and state your position.
My name is Trevor Crosby, for any of you who don't know me, and I want to get up and talk about how the vote in America is one of the most important things that we have. I was going to say it at the end, but I want to say it first. I thank the good Lord, Jesus Christ, for men with courage stand up for our American flag and freedoms. Sure appreciate the sheriff and Mr. Didier here and all you brothers and sisters coming out today. And I know there's a lot of you out there that didn't come and you wish you were here. But we just have to stand together, and I want to get up and talk about, again, the vote. I've got some close friends. I know a lot of people around here, but I only hang out with a few people, and they're leaving to go to Florida because they don't want to live here anymore in the state of Washington. They hate Inslee. I got a lot of customers who won't even do business with me unless I say I hate Inslee, hate the governor. These people are moving to Florida. They say that, and they're both military, man and a woman. They have 4 children. They got 4 children. New son, 2 sons, 2 daughters. Very smart. Military backgrounds. They're throwing in the towel on Washington. I'm not doing it. I'm from Utah. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I'm a Christian. We Christians have got to stand together. We got to stop nickel and diming everything and trying to go with politics and the law. It's a false law. Again, I'm here to just talk about the vote for a second. He said, until we have a good vote, we don't have a country. We don't have a government. The brother that spoke before me, he said, if the government gets out of bounds. It's our duty to alter a bullshit. Right now, brothers and sisters, we don't have, in my opinion, a legitimate president of our country. We don't have a legitimate governor of our state because they committed vote fraud. We're not here to play any more games. We're not here to make phone calls and say we're not happy. We're not here to show up for any more meetings. We thank God that we have a sheriff that will lead. And we will stand behind him. And we're going to get some things done. With Mr. Didier here and our sheriff, we're not messing around anymore. Decide which side you're on. And you can repent if you have been on the wrong side. Go ahead and repent. I'll leave this all with you in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. At this point in time, I am going to suspend the meeting and carry on with comment. So please keep your comments at 3 minutes or less if you could, and we're going to suspend the meeting. And if you'd like to speak at the mic, please freely come on up and say your piece.
Yeah, I'd like to.
I don't want to shut the video off.
It's Joel Pranzel.
Okay, we're not suspending the meeting then. The mic,
Mr. Didier, thank you.
You're a clown.
excuse me, hang on.
It doesn't matter. We just let the people hear.
Good.
Thank you, Mr. Didier. Thank you, everyone else that spoke already. Thank you, Rocky, for staying.
I'm staying.
I think, you know what? I want to thank all of them that are staying. Even you still standing here trying to defend the mask.
Yep.
You know what? We all have a right to stand up. Because when you give up your right to stand up, you lose. Brad Peck, he walked out.
He's a coward.
But he has been in bed with, what's his name over there in the west side?
Trash. Don't even talk about me.
I'm sorry, but he walked out. He's done. But I want to explain on this mask thing and all this COVID stuff that they say is true. My father broke his hip. I think it's been 2 weeks ago. Hold on. 2 weeks ago. You're going to be surprised at this. And I can bring you the data. If you want data proof that they got screwed up numbers, we're going to have one right here. He went in the hospital. They tested him. He says he's positive. That's what they said. They put him in the COVID wing. He never had a single inkling of it. No sign of anything. We fussed quite a bit to get him out because we didn't want him to stay there because he's not sick. Crud, you're going to kill a 77-year-old man that is on dialysis 3 days a week, now 2 days a week, and you put him in a COVID wing? What? Finally, my mom fussed enough, had enough phone calls to them. All of a sudden, let my mom go up and see him now. Before they wouldn't let anyone see him. The very next day they allow, come on up. It's okay now. Because you fussed enough. The doctor threatened us to say, if you want him out of the hospital, he's going to have to make his own way out from the 3rd floor by himself out the door. He's got a broken left leg. He's got a hip that has been replaced on his right. He can't put any pressure on his left leg, and they want him to walk out of the hospital.
What hospital?
Lady of Lords. You don't go to Lady of Lords for sure. It's just, I'm sorry. I thought, maybe the closest hospital's better when it's a rated 1 out of 5. Oh, don't ever do it. You don't have any way of being an advocate for your relatives or anyone else. You're not able to get in to help them. And then the doctor tells me, he has advocates all the time. The nurses are their advocate. They're not his advocate. So he lies again. Then he says, finally he goes, we can go ahead and get him down to the threshold and then he's yours. I was like, that's fine. That works for me. And then he goes, no. Only if you contact an ambulance to come pick him up and tell us where he's going. I tell you, it's like this. Hold down on you long enough until you say uncle. Well, I don't say uncle. You can break my arm, but I'm not going to say uncle.
We got to stand together.
Well, the final of the story is he has to go do his dialysis. We got him home within less than a week and something. And so the last test was the day before he left. Still test positive. We went to dialysis the following day. Right over here in Road 68, amongst every dialysis person there in the same room, that's all on dialysis. If something's kind of funky about that, and then all of a sudden, then the doctor there said, "Oh, well, you know what? I'm upset that you didn't tell us that you tested positive." Really? He called the hospital. I called in a couple days to figure out where to take him because he needs his dialysis. So it's been now, I think, 6 days since his last positive. The doctor calls the hospital right here in Lady of Lourdes, right across the street here. You know what they looked at? They're like, The doctor called us back and says, "You know what? Don't worry about going to Richland. Just come on back in. You're okay." What? Tell me, what would make you a little concerned that it's all false? Everything is phonied to have a doctor call back to Lady of Lourdes. You have a positive test within 6 days, but yet it's okay to come to the dialysis with about 30 patients on beds getting dialysis and get ready to die if they catch COVID. So obviously we have a case to where we can prove that there's a real problem with the system. The doctors are lying somewhere, or why would you let a COVID patient in with every sick person that will guarantee if they caught it, they would die within less than probably 5 days? Now you see, but see, the only way to get proof is you got documentation. And then you can prove that these masks do nothing anyway, because science already tells us masks do nothing for you. The particle is so small, it's like throwing a piece of sand through the air here, and this was the mask. You guys all know the system. You guys know exactly what it is, but no one's willing to stand up, put the target on their back, and say, "You know what? I'm willing to stand up and say, I can't hack this. This is ridiculous." And it's only to try to go like this, like that doctor. Hold the finger down on them till they say uncle, or let's destroy these businesses until they have nothing left. Then you have to look to them. If you look to them only, you would die, because then they have full control over you to do whatever they want. You have nothing left.
Leave these guys alone. They're fine. Just stop attacking these guys.
So I want to say thank you. Thank to the Lord. The Lord is what saves my father from not dying from COVID, putting in a COVID wing, if anyone even had it. He's still on dialysis. But we brought him home so we could actually work with him, because they didn't even bring him some meals. You know what the nurses and the doctors said? "Oh, no, they get their stuff. My dad's on the phone with me. That's the only way I could talk to him." He says, "I've been asking for breakfast from 6 a.m. all the way to 11. And then they finally say, "Oh, I'm sorry, we forgot to bring you your food." This is in what do they call it when they're put in the
Intensive care.
The intensive care unit. They won't even, and you put someone that's on dialysis that they're weak already and they can't stand yet because they're so weak they can't get out of bed, and they just don't bring them their meals. No IV, don't bring them meals, and just let them lay there for 6 to 8 hours, again, not including the last day or two in the emergency room downstairs, and still would not let them, they would not even care for him.
Thank you, Joel.
It's unbelievable. And then they say, "Wear a mask."
Thank you,
I'm
Joel.
sorry, just gotta go.
Right? Sorry about that. You did good.
Thank you, Joel.
Are we doing 3 minutes? Or
Yes, I'm going to put the timer on.
Sure, now that I'm here, you put the timer on. Okay, so first of all, I have handouts for you for reference because I believe in data. I believe that not all scientific studies are created equal. So I always go to, when you hear news stories, when you hear anecdotal studies or anecdotal results, which most studies start at. Realize that most studies start with anecdotes. People saying, "This worked for me, this worked for me." So I go to the government website and I list that on here. So I believe that the problem is we're listening to bureaucrats and we're listening to news media, and politicians are listening to those instead of going to the right source, which is the it's www.ncbi.nlm.nih.gov. It's where every scientific study, if it's not listed there, it never happened. So just understand that. And in there, I looked up face mask studies, and it gave me like 100 results, because it wasn't just about face masks for COVID. It was respiratory masks. It was for multiple studies that are going on. And I could not find one study. They were either insufficient, still pending, or they were completed but gave no results. Give no results on the efficacy of face masks. The one for the N95 is still in the process. So we are being given mandates on incomplete science. I haven't even seen an anecdotal evidence that face masks work. So I can go over and try to explain to you why I think they don't work, but it doesn't matter, because the data shows that there's no study. And here in 2013, on that same website by the government, it shows a peer-reviewed gold standard study on chloroquine and its efficacy to cure SARS and COVID type viruses when given early. So what does Fauci do? He says, you know what, we're going to do a really quick study. It wasn't peer reviewed. It wasn't well done. There were no controls, and it was given to people on their deathbeds. Oh, it didn't work. So therefore it's dangerous. And now it was pretty much outlawed. And not one lawyer, not one politician went to the source to prove that it does work when given early. So this is why the people have no trust in the bureaucrats and in the politicians. We believe in truth. We believe in my body, my choice. And I can give you an anecdotal evidence that I started taking vitamin D years ago because I was getting sick all the time. Went to the doctor, and I was clinically low. They gave me prescription strength, and I started taking it after that over the counter. I haven't been sick in years. Finally got the virus after wearing my face mask under my nose everywhere I could go. And I could not get sick to save my life. Finally, my husband brings it home from work, and he gives it to me when we're driving to Utah in the car. And I had a 3-day sinus headache, 2 weeks of not smelling. I didn't get tested. I want you to know, on the health board dashboard website, Franklin County is the worst for vaccines, the worst for face masks, and yet we are 6th from the bottom on morbidity. And that's competing with counties that are very, very small. We have a very low morbidity COVID rate in this county. And that is because we chose to take over the command of our own bodies and what works for us to protect ourselves. And I am just tired of this government. And I am with this young man here that it's time to give up on the government and take control. And the initiative starts today to get rid of this mandate and get rid of the unconstitutional mandate, which the judge stated. It wasn't that we could even go to court against it. It was the government doesn't have the constitutional right to do this, so therefore you can't sue him. That's the point.
Thank you.
My name is Regina Grassel. I don't need a podium. I'm not wearing a mask. I'm pretty noisy. This is a kind of emotional. The worst thing about some of this stuff is, think about it. In our family, there was a very sick lady, very sick, 99 years old, whatever that, Parkview Estates, her birthday, 99 frickin' years old. You know what the family did? I don't know. They came down. There was about 15 grandkids, whatever. Here's how they said, "Happy birthday, Grandma." And they touched the screen. And she touched the screen. Is that sick or what? You know? So anyhow, Regina Grassel, I'm from the state of Washington, I think. And I'm a dryland farmer. I just wanted to rub that into them irrigated mud farmers. So I'm representing the drylanders and the mud farmers. So just remember, the emotion is when they're dying and you got to put your hand on a screen. I cried. That broke my heart.
Yeah.
What a way to say goodbye to a 99-year-old woman. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else for comment?
Kevin Heinen, farmer, Mesa, Washington. I know a lot of you people in here, you know, a lot of things we've done in the past as the United States. We used to have slaves. We realized that was wrong. We gave women the right to vote. We realized that was wrong. So there's lots Sean, what I'm saying, Sean, all those things we've done wrong, our forefathers fought for, you know, the King of England imposed things on us back then. And we didn't agree with them. We fought for what was right. We, the people, fought for what was right. So at some point, we have to stand up and we have to say no. And I think we're doing it here today. We got to start somewhere, guys. We got to stand up, because if we just let this governor of ours keep running over us, it's just going to keep going, guys. I mean, at some point, or we're just going to be a bunch of puppets. So, thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Trevor Odell. I'll try my best not to get emotional, because this is a very important meeting that we're in right now. I never intended to be here today. But God intervened in ways that you wouldn't believe. I'm going to spare that story because I've only got 3 minutes. But I'm here at God's request to speak. My background is in law. I studied law. I'm not practicing law, but I studied law. And I know that an unconstitutional law is unconstitutional from its inception, even assuming that this is a law. And it is not. It is an executive decree. You heard earlier someone spoke and said that this is the law. Tyranny is when the executive power stands up and takes legislative power unto itself. Tyranny is when the executive power bears up the lesser weight of the other branches of government. Your job here is to see the unintended consequences, to see the dangers, to see the problem with the thinking that's out there. I'm going to tell you a quick story. After receiving COVID and recovering, I talked to a doctor, and the doctor said, in your case, with your medical condition, I would not recommend that you get the vaccine. Having recovered, you should be fine. I said, okay, would you mind signing that on paper? The doctor was scared to do so. Would not provide me with an exemption. After having said that his recommendation was, no, you shouldn't. But he's afraid to do it. Why? Because we live in a culture of fear right now. Yeah. Everyone is afraid to stand up. Everyone is afraid to speak. The people who stand for us, the people who are not afraid, are right here. And you can't see the rest.
Please let him speak.
If you guys can't see from your angle how many people are outside. There are people standing out there in the hallway, leaning in, trying to get a chance to listen to what's going on here. What happens here in this room affects the lives of so many people. It is your responsibility. Right now, we're standing with our Bill of Rights being whittled away at little by little. I have been told over the course of the past 2 years that I can't go to church. I have been told over the past few years that my job is not my right anymore. I have been told where I can go, where I can shop. I have been told to get out because of something that I'm presumed to maybe possibly have, but we can't know for sure. That's guilty until proven innocent. That is not what our system of law was built upon. And yet that is what we are doing to our constituents. It is your responsibility, all of you, and I beg and plead with you, in the humblest way I know, stand up, take back our country, take back your responsibility. Start with what's within your power. You have a sphere of influence. It may be small, relatively speaking, but if you are brave enough with the power of your people, with the power of God, you will be able to stand and take back your responsibility. You were voted into this position for a reason. Do something with it. Stand for your people. Understand that not everyone falls within a single one-size-fits-all rule. Understand that freedom exists for a reason. Because if you don't, when this is all said and done, how many of those rights in that Bill of Rights will still be standing? How many have we lost already? How many will we lose before it's done, before someone stands up and takes action? I want to thank you guys for being here. The man who walked out, he walked right past a whole bunch of people not wearing masks without the slightest hesitation. That man was a hypocrite. He walked out because he was scared. Not of me, without my mask. He was scared of this. You guys are at a juncture. You guys have the right to stand up. You have the responsibility to stand up. You have the duty to stand up for your people. And I ask you to do that today. And I ask it in God's name. I am here because God himself arranged for me to be here. I had no intention of being here. I didn't know this was even happening.
I'm listening to it right now.
So I ask you, in his name, please do the right thing today.
Thank you.
My name is Adriel Odell. I'm Trevor's brother, so hopefully I'm even a fraction of eloquent as he is. I came here today to stand, take a stand. We can't be apathetic anymore. We can't sit on the sidelines and just expect somebody else to do something for us. Obviously, we had one giant coward here, Brad Peck, that decided to walk out on the meeting instead of doing his duty. So he was derelict of his duties. At this point, it needs to be replaced. So I hope all those within Franklin County will realize that and do so. Having said that, we have been put through a scamdemic. This is ridiculous. This is all a scam. The PCR tests, CDC's coming out and saying, December, replace them because they counted the flu as COVID. And so that's why we were down 95% on the flu for the first time ever. Any virologist worth their salt is saying at this point, this is here to stay, accept it, move forward. Respiratory viruses do not go away. The flu has never gone away, no matter how much we've tried. When you have the WHO and the CDC moving the goalposts left and right, telling you that we're going to create a new herd immunity definition, we're going to create a new definition for vaccines, we're going to create a new definition for all these things, at some point we got to sit back and say, you know what? This is never going to end unless we say enough is enough. We, the people, have the power. We, the people, are no longer apathetic. We, the people, are standing up. And I thank you all for being here and staying seated and listening to us as we speak. This has to end. We can't let Fuhrer Inslee go on endlessly. We have to say enough is enough. You're done. We're not going to allow you to do this anymore. And it's not going to be an easy thing to do. You will have to stick your neck out to do it. We're all behind you right now if you stick your neck out. Thank you, Clint. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate you putting posts out there so that we know about things like this and we can be here and we can listen to what's going on and we can make our voices heard. This must end, and it must end now before we destroy all businesses, before we destroy people. We don't need petri dishes on our face. We don't need to get sick because we have a cloth that's absorbing everything and sticking it to our face. It's not for our safety. It's to make us weaker. That's the whole goal of everything that's happening within this system right now, is to make the people weaker. We are not weak. We're not weak. We're standing up. We're done. Enough of this. And cowards like that gentleman right there that just walked out, he's who we need to replace. We don't need individuals who are going to perpetuate the status quo. We need individuals who will stand with the people and say, you know what? You got my back. I got your back. Let's move forward together. Let's reclaim freedom. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
George Dockstetter, South Landing Road. I don't care if you wear a mask or don't wear a mask. That's your right.
That's right.
But the three of you have an obligation to do your job as county commissioners and run this county. You're going to sit there. I don't know what's on the agenda today. I care less. But who's going to write the paychecks? If you guys aren't going to meet and conduct county business, who's going to approve subdivisions? Who's going to approve different ordinances? And who's going to lead this county forward? I don't care if you wear a mask or not. I don't care if it's illegal or not. But the employees want to get paid, because I know I'd want to get paid if I was one. So I want you guys to start doing your job and holding meetings, whether you like the conditions or not, or want to wear a mask or not. Don't wear one. Who cares?
That's right.
I don't wear one, and I'm probably more at risk than anybody in this room. But that's my choice. You guys need to do your business for the county or resign and get the hell out.
Thank you.
Steve Matthews. I heard it mentioned earlier that we needed to get on with business because there were things that needed to be acted on business-wise. I think we need to step back a notch and say what's happening to the existing businesses that are being run out of business because of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Alexia. I'm a community organizer here, and I grew up in Franklin County, and I can sense and hear everyone's frustration in the room. But I also wanted to come as one of your constituents and say that I do wear my mask because I love my neighbor and want to make sure that I'm keeping everyone safe. I know that it can be frustrating. I don't like wearing the mask either. My acne is breaking out so much. But I just wanted to come and just let you know that this doesn't represent all of your constituents. And there are folks out there that are really at risk, immunocompromised. And I just hope that you're taking everyone into consideration. Thank you.
Is there anybody else for public comment?
So I just wanted to stand here. I came here today, so I want to make a comment. My name's Steve Simmons. I live in the county. So I have to agree with Mr. Dockstetter there. The mask, whether you wear it or not, doesn't matter to me. I'm actually pro wearing a mask when it's appropriate. I'm actually pro vaccine. I feel that, I have friends that work in the hospital right now, and I'll tell you right now, the Tri-Cities is having a huge outbreak in COVID right now. Our hospitals are full. But I'll tell you what, it's not with vaccinated people, it's with unvaccinated people. No, that's straight from a doctor.
Please,
I just
let him
texted him
speak.
right now, and that's what he told me. So it's at Catholic. It's countywide. But I'll tell you what, the deaths in our county are extremely low. Ever since the start of COVID, they're extremely low. So I understand this lady over here being concerned. I think the issue that here I have is mandating. I don't know why we have to have laws, or I don't even want to say laws, why we have to have proclamations. Laws are passed by legislature. The governor is not a legislator. He has authority to act within the law, the power given him by the legislature and by the Constitution. He can pass mandates and proclamations, so that's what they are. I just don't understand why we have to have laws and mandates to force people to do things. Those aren't I've never understood that. That's not why we have laws. If we're going to pass a law, we better pass a law that we want people to adhere to, and if they don't, then they are punished. That's what we want. Those are the types of laws we want, not laws that compel or force people to do things like get a vaccine. That's a very, very personal choice. And I would even argue wearing a mask is a very, very personal choice. Do I believe they work? I don't want any repercussions. I believe that in situations they are effective. I believe there are situations where they do not. But it is a personal choice, and I don't think that mandates are the answer. And I think it needs to be at a local and county level at which these decisions are made, what's best for the people here. That way we can have our grievances heard. And I understand that right now, maybe this is not the place to do it, and we need initiatives and going that route. But the problem is we're constantly told to be quiet. We're constantly told that this is what we need to do, just do it and be quiet. And I just want to say in closing that I'm appreciative of this because it's giving people an outlet. It's boiling over. And there are people on both sides, both being anti-mandate does not mean you're anti-mask or anti-vaccine. You may agree with those, but you're against what the governor's doing. So I want to just let people know that while we're here and majority of us aren't wearing masks, there are people that are that are standing with us that would be pro-mask. So let's not alienate them. Let's stand together, because what we really want to fight is these mandates and personal choice. That's what we want.
Yes.
So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Rosenau. I'm your county assessor, but I'm here as an individual and a citizen, not in my official capacity in the county. You know, I truly believe in fighting for freedom. Amen. True freedom. It's what the founding fathers of this country fought for. I, for one, believe that that's what we need to do continually, not just because of this irritable governor that we've got right now and decrepit president that I think is absolutely mentally incompetent. Okay, so now you know my political views. But I believe in free choice, liberty. I'll fight for any member of my family or any of you or any of my staff members to have the right to wear a mask and get a vaccine, the same as I'd fight for them to have the freedom to not have to wear a mask and not have to get a vaccine. I believe it's an individual's right and choice. I have my own personal preferences. You know, we haven't even brought up the fact that we haven't taken into any consideration. What about people that have medical exemptions even based upon what the governor has put in his little mandate? We haven't even mentioned that. We haven't mentioned what about the people that are going to lose their jobs that fought on the front lines. I've got family members that work in the healthcare industry that are at risk of losing their jobs right now. They're putting in exemptions based upon their true beliefs, fighting for what they believe is right. We aren't even talking about, what about them? What about the ones that were on the front line all those times? I know the assessor's office, I think we had the doors closed. I wasn't here at that time. I just came in February, but I think they had the doors closed for 1, maybe 2 days. Other than that, I think they were open more than any other office in this county, serving the citizens of this county and doing what they could. But I can tell you right now, I've got employees that said before they take that mandate, Sean, they'll quit. Amen. Before they take it, they will leave. And I can't afford to lose employees in that office. And I've got some that are taking that hard of a stand. Now, my position is, I don't want to know your medical history. That's private to you. Here's the exemptions. Here's what the order is. You're adults. Follow it to the best of your conscience. Okay? So, commissioners, I understand maybe this will be considered, quote, illegal. I don't see where you're taking any actions that anybody could frown upon anyway at this point in time. Okay? Maybe you'll choose to do so. But I appreciate you hearing us out. I, for one, have legitimate exemptions to not have to wear a mask, and yet there's times I'll put one on for the comfort of some of the citizens that come into my office. When I go to the store, sometimes I'll put one on. My wife is completely deaf. The exemption says that if I'm communicating with her, I don't have to wear a mask, and neither does she, because she reads lips, she doesn't sign. Did you know the governor's order? Now, that is the most ridiculous thing. She gets to take her mask off when I can hear her talk. So, no, the mandates and some of them are asinine, not just stupid. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else for public comment?
My name is Mike Dietrich. I just have one quick question. If masks are effective, Idaho has not had masks since the beginning, is my understanding. And why are our numbers very much similar to Idaho's?
I just want to say one quick thing. There was a statement made that we're here because of Commissioner Didier. I want you to know I'm here because of our governor. So he had nothing to do with it.
Thank you. And I'd like to make a statement here too. Last meeting in our presentation of the last week, Commissioner Peck spoke of being on the radio and talked of a doctor, and it was actually promoting mandatory vaccinations. The Board of Commissioners, I am not in favor of mandatory masks or mandatory vaccinations. I'd like to hear from Commissioner Mullen on that.
It's personal choice. I'm not going to bully anybody into take any direction they want. But no one should tell you what you should put into your body. That is your choice. It's your choice if you want to wear a mask. Do I think the mask worked? No, I do not. I only wore the mask to try to be compliant to make the meeting legal.
So I just want to make a point.
I agree with everything that was said today. I think there's a different avenue that we need to take, and I think that, and I applaud Mr. Clippert for acknowledging his mistake in voting that way. But also, I believe he has a path forward to change this in the right direction. My question is, why didn't we have an executive emergency meeting months ago? I have several businesses. One of them, I haven't made a dime in over a year because it's been completely shut down. I understand. I've also been under the thumb of LNI, and I know what the repercussions are. And when that happens, you know, you're kind of on your own. I hate to say that, but no one comes forward to help you pay your bills. And so it's frustrating. But my question, because, you know, I'm new, I don't know the majority of things that happen and take place and the procedural way of doing it. But Mr. Clippert, I think, has a great idea of moving forward, and he's experienced in that field. So I believe that by holding this emergency meeting and getting an initiative going is the correct way. I would like to hear more from Brad on how we get this initiative process going forward. I stayed to listen to everybody. I don't want to engage in any business today because I don't want to put jeopardy of lawsuits coming forward towards us. I'm being totally honest. I agree with everything that was said today.
So what my point is what was spoken on the radio by Commissioner Peck is of his own opinion, not of the Board of Commissioners. And you've heard it from the other two commissioners. We're not in favor of mask mandates or vaccination mandates in Franklin County. I'd also ask you all to refer to the second half of the Declaration of Independence. And in the second half of the Declaration of Independence, our founding fathers laid a usurpation against the king, and he has erected a multitude of new offices, sent out his hither swarm of officers to harass the people and to eat out their substance. That is what's going on today in Washington State. And we have to resist. We have to fight back. Because if not, we will only have a handful of people in this room the next time. He will take us all out.
Mr. Chairman.
This is tyranny. Please, go ahead.
So I asked for the most recent numbers from Olympia to be sent to me by a staffer in Olympia, and those have arrived. Could I give accurate numbers?
Absolutely, go ahead.
So this is as of yesterday, the 22nd of August. So I just want everyone listening so no one says, that's a lie, he didn't give us the truth. So this is as of yesterday, August 21. This actually comes from Governor Inslee's office. 92.9% of Washington State's population has not tested positive for COVID-19. 99.6% has not been hospitalized for COVID-19. 99.015% of Washington State's population has not died of COVID-19. This now, I'm going to the next.
What was that last one again, please? One more. That on that last number you gave.
99.015 have not died of COVID-19. That's of Washington's 7,615,000 residents. So what they give you is they say that 0.085% have died of COVID-19, which means 99.015 have not died of COVID-19. The next two numbers are very interesting to me because they're down. They're actually down. For those who tested positive for COVID-19, 5.58% have been hospitalized. That means 94.42 have not been hospitalized. That's down from 5.62%. So in other words, those who are catching COVID-19, less people are being hospitalized than before. And that's
But we're being told our hospitals are being overrun.
Can I address that just for a second,
Please.
Mr. Chair? Yesterday, while I was on the treadmill, I was watching local news, and I put myself through Central Washington University, working at Kittitas Valley Memorial Hospital. Kittitas Valley Memorial Hospital said that their health professionals who are being mandated to get the vaccine are leaving in record numbers. They, just like the assessor said we will not be vaccinated, and we quit. And so my question to Governor Inslee is, who is going to take care of the people who do catch COVID-19 if all the medical professionals who are mandated, who do not choose to be mandated to get a vaccine, are not there to take care of those who need medical attention? The same is true of many teachers when we have a teacher and a substitute shortage. Let's go to the next number, if I may, please. So those who have tested positive for COVID-19 and have died of COVID-19, it's actually down from 1.27% to 1.19%. That means that 98.81% of COVID-19 patients who have contracted COVID-19 have not died from COVID-19. Just real quick quotes, I write them down when they say them. The CDC, Center for Disease Control, says 40% of those who catch COVID-19 are asymptomatic. The World Health Organization said 80% plus have only mild symptoms. World Health Organization said that lockdowns are not the best route. They actually have more negative consequences than positive consequences. The Center for Disease Control said that age 1 day to 18 years old, influenza is more deadly than COVID-19. And Dr. Fauci said on June 10th, 2020, there is never a guarantee that a vaccine is safe and effective. Lastly, to our children from age 1 to 19, although, Mr. Chair, if I may, even before you're born, I do believe you are a living, viable human being, and that you need to be protected.
Thank you.
Confirmed cases, 0 to 19 years old, or 1 day to 19 years old, 18.27%. So of those who tested positive, which was 7.1% of our state's population, of that 7.1%, 18.27% are between the ages of 1 day to 19 years old. Deaths from COVID-19 from 0 to 19, of the 0.085%, 0.16 of them are ages 0 to 19. And of those, did I say hospitalized is 2.19% and deaths is 0.16%. So those are the accurate numbers, Mr. Chair.
And they're better than they were previous.
The two numbers that are better are those who have tested positive and were hospitalized have actually gone down.
Yep.
The percentage of those who have tested positive and are now hospitalized, that number has actually gone down according to the governor's office. And those who tested positive and have died from COVID-19, that number has also gone down.
So let me ask you a question, Brad. How can we demand a special session as citizens? What do we got to do? And will it do any good with the legislative representation we have in the state of Washington today?
You asked me a question. I don't want to take too much time because 3 minutes, right?
No, you got more.
I'm putting this man to sleep back here. One day there was a gentleman, there was a fellow legislator on the House floor, was very, very upset and talked about the people who wrote to him. And so I went to him afterwards, and he's on the other side of the aisle, and I said, why did you get so upset at those people? I said, Brad, I believe I believe what they believe. And he was also born and raised in a Christian family. But he said, the way they talked to me just made me angry. So I vented. And so if we will talk respectfully, I think that's the best way to go about it. And here's what I would encourage everyone to do. So I took these numbers and I wrote them down as I was sitting there, just sent to me on text from Olympia. And I wrote them in pencil because they change on a regular basis. Sit down, get a piece of paper out, write a letter to the Speaker of the House, write a letter to the Senate Majority Leader, imploring them, begging them, please call a special session and ask and bring the legislator back to special session and take back from the governor these emergency powers, because we are a constitutional republic. We are not a monarchy, and we need all three branches of our government working, not just one. So, that's what I do. Anybody ever watch the movie, The Christmas Story? When the judge has all those bags of mail dumped on his desk, that's effective. And don't do a chain letter, because they want to hear from your heart. They don't want to hear you say the exact same thing that everybody else says. If I get those, I just throw the stack away, because if the second one's the same as the first, it's going to be all the way. I don't have time to read the same message over and over again. So sit down and write a personal letter. The other thing is, there was one point in time when the governor, a different governor, not this one, was getting ready to parole someone who shot a Richland law enforcement officer and left him to die. And a law enforcement officer came to me and said, what do we do? And I said, have every law enforcement officer in the state of Washington call the governor and say, don't you dare let that person out. Since then, I've gone into the governor's office, and the lady who answers the phones there, Mr. Chair, said to me, I remember the day you shut down the phone lines in the governor's office, because every law enforcement officer did that exact thing. They picked up the phone and they overwhelmed the governor's office with phone calls, and the governor did not release that man. So you, the citizens, have the power to, we read it, Declaration of Independence. We read the Constitution. It's we the people. And I want to thank the young lady in the back. Thank you for your testimony with your mask on, because the people here, you probably heard it said, and the other gentleman who took his mask down, we're not here because we're anti-mask. We're not here because we're anti-vaccine. We're here because we're for anti-mandate. And we support your right to wear a mask if you choose to. We support your right to get vaccinated if you choose to. We just are standing for our right not to if we so choose to. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? And I'd like to also make a statement about the county employees, because there's a lot of concern within the courthouse, because Commissioner Peck has made a statement that they're state employees. No, they're not. They're county employees. And I don't know how you can associate they are being paid by the state when they're paid by the taxpayers of Franklin County. And so therefore, I think any mandatory vaccination would have to pass through the Board of Commissioners. And I, for one, will not vote for that.
I most definitely will. I have a question for Mr. Clifford. Where do we get the addresses to write to our legislators so people know where to write to?
Especially the Speaker of the House.
If you have availability to the internet, go to www.wa.gov. www.gov.wa. www.wa.gov. Yeah, sorry, www.wa.gov. And then you just look up, go to government, the government tab, and then look up whatever, well, Speaker of the House, and look up Senate Majority Leader. And those are the two people who can, in fact, have the power, because they have the votes, to call a special session, because it's going to take the legislature to vote, yes, we want to come into special session. And so I would do that, and you can get their phone number from them too. I wish I had it with me here right now. I don't. I apologize. I don't. The initiative process, call the Secretary of State's office, and the Secretary of State and your county auditor can help guide you through the initiative process. And did I answer the question?
Yes, I have one more question too. What happened when all the beauty operators went to Olympia?
Oh, thank you. That's a great question. I'm up here too long. So here's the deal. They said the law that was proposed was that you could no longer be an independent contractor, if I understand just the basics, paraphrasing the law. So if this gentleman and I both cut hair and he owns a shop, I can no longer come and be an independent contractor in his shop. I've got to become a member of a union, the Haircutters Union. So 1,500, I mean, they lined out the door out to the parking lot. Hairdressers came in immediately. That bill was killed because the people stood up. Great question. Thank you, Mr. Mullen, for that question. So when the people rise up, your government should and will listen. Yes, sir.
I just want to say this Saturday in Olympia is a very big rally against the mandates. And so that's an opportunity to let the legislation governor see what you believe.
Saturday in Olympia, I can't be there because I have to work at the sheriff's office, but today at Richland School District's administrative building, there will be, at 6 o'clock, there will be a similar meeting where I will be there speaking. So today's 6 o'clock, Richland School Board. Okay. Did I answer everyone's questions, Sam? No, I'm taking too much time.
Island Church.
Island View Church in Richland.
Tomorrow night in Richland.
I'm told tomorrow. I haven't confirmed that, but that's what I'm being told. And if that's the case, I'll do everything I can to be there too. Any other questions? I love you guys. Thank you. Oh, God bless you. God bless America. Yes, ma'am.
How much of that went down though because folks are getting vaccinated? So the
How much? Oh,
but is it because more folks are getting vaccinated, so less folks are ending up in hospital on ventilators because the vaccine works?
Well, Franklin County has the least vax rate, yet we have some of the lowest morbidity rates. So.
Yeah, I guess my question
So
is.
the question that is posed to me, and you correct me if I'm wrong, are those people dying less and being hospitalized less because of the vaccine? Is that correct?
Yeah, people are getting vaccinated. There's more. There's less less risk because folks are getting vaccinated. That means the vaccine is working.
I had two friends that ended up 2 weeks later.
So did I restate your question correctly? Because just in case people who are listening online, I wanted them to be able to hear your question. So I don't know for sure. If I said I know for sure, I would be lying to you, and that's the last thing I'd ever want to do to you. But I would say this. My mom is 86 years old. She had COVID-19 and she survived. I have a very, very close friend who I don't have permission to share their name. Their father was fully vaccinated for COVID-19 and just died on Sunday. Okay, so there's some who have, or 86-year-olds who weren't, I don't know, vaccinated or not, who survive, and some who have been fully vaccinated and died. So I don't know what to tell you. I'm not a scientist. I don't have those numbers. I just stand for individual rights. If you want to wear a mask, wear one. If you want to get vaccinated, get vaccinated. If you don't, I stand for your right not to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Is there any other public comment? With that, I am ready to conduct. Oh, no, Joe's got to get going. He's got another meeting. I'm ready to conduct the business of Franklin County, and if Mr. Mullen is willing to do so.
I have a question for Sean Sant real quick. Unfortunately, because we've not followed the orders from our governor, I mean, any business today has potential to have lawsuits put against them. Is that correct?
My concern was in the beginning, the requirement is to make sure that we're following the order. Whether we agree with it or not, this has been a great session for, the public to give the board hearing, but I would be concerned with any business going forward at this point. I would suggest that we continue next week with the idea that allow the county business to take place, and those that are willing to follow the guidance that we have right now, we start that off with the mask requirement. And if people want to stick around after that, then after all that business is taken care of, then I guess the board could do it. Obviously, my recommendation is based on the legal advice that I have and obligation I have to the board. And that is, we have to follow this until we change it. And that what Brad talked about, Clifford, is that we have to participate. If we don't like the laws, we have to get involved. And like he said, it just takes numbers to go to Olympia and drive that change and get people to do that. But there's a process in place that we have to follow. And if we don't follow that, that really undoes the potential business that is done. And like I said, our duty and obligation also, we're employers. We need to follow the law as well within our courthouse. And we do the best that we can. So anyway, that's
clarification. So your recommendation is that the county not conduct any business, so it's not impacted under the current conditions, and it be suspended, for lack of better words.
yeah, we continue today's meeting until next week.
To next week, and then business be known, and then those that don't want to go by the guidelines of wearing masks, then don't come, so that we can do important things like get the commissioners to approve a
You got it upside down, Sheriff.
camera,
There you go.
camera
Yeah.
policy and those type of things, so it doesn't.
Another mandate by the state that's going to cost the taxpayers how much, Sheriff?
Oh, in the tune of about $150,000 a year.
Every sheriff deputy has to wear this camera now.
So that's exactly right, Sheriff. And I recognize that individuals have used terms mandates, proclamation. The problem is the legislature has authorized. This is not the governor just imposing and
That's a
taking
law.
power.
Yeah.
This was passed by the legislature, and I appreciate Mr. Clippert's comments. It's like he did a lot, I think, in part because the Second Amendment was dangled, as was mentioned. But the problem is, this is the law, and frankly, that's what the people have hired me to do, is provide legal guidance to keep the county out of legal jeopardy. But I fully encourage the citizens to go ahead and advocate how you feel that we need to do to get the laws changed at the state. And that's the state. We're following the state law, and that's how things break down. We have national law. The states have this great opportunity. We can affect change. The founders gave us a period of time every 2 years. If we don't like what's going on, we could change out the majorities. And that's what I would encourage people to do if they're unhappy. Affect that change. Follow Brad Clippert's advice to get your numbers, get your letters to the people that could bring in a special session so we could address this. We've had a lot of law changes that affected our office's ability, law enforcement's ability after July 25. I know Representative Clippert was trying to rally a special session because, frankly, they passed the law so quickly they didn't even realize the repercussions that it had. And appreciate Rep. Clippert's service as law enforcement officer. We work with them a lot, and I recognize the frustration because, again, even the AG's office, it sounds like it's going to be not until next year to provide the opinion language or guidance for law enforcement, yet they expect them to do their duties effectively, 100% accurate all of the time, and if there's a mistake, then there's a huge consequence. And so there's a lot of issues that we need to address. But again, my guidance is because we did start this meeting not following the requirements as laid out, I would suggest we take a recess, we reconvene next week and conduct the business, follow the recommendation now that we've heard everybody's argument, and we could continue the fight outside and addressing Olympia where it needs to be addressed.
Okay, Sean, before you leave, I just want it to be known that we are being sued by a UCLA law firm on redistricting in Franklin County. And we have Sean's responsibility to hire the legal counsel. He has put forth Casey Bruner, who's representing us. As a citizen, as a voter, and a potential candidate in 2022, I've also hired Joel Ard to represent me for Franklin County, and he is going to be fighting the constitutionality of the Washington State Voter Act's right, which is unconstitutional.
Well, just be clear, and just
I'm
be clear.
hiring him.
He represents you personally. He
Yes,
does not
I've already hired him.
And he does not represent
He's
Franklin
not
County.
representing
Just be
Franklin
clear.
County. He's representing Clint Didier.
That's
I'm
fine.
paying the bill,
That's fine.
and I'm bringing him in to defend our constitutional right on this redistricting that is ridiculous. We got California coming up here trying to redraw the boundary lines in our damn county.
Well, nobody else has authority to represent matters of the Franklin County.
No.
He can represent matters
He's
for you
representing me.
personally.
Yes, he's representing me
Okay.
personally.
Okay, just so we're clear.
We're clear.
Can I get quick clarification on something? So next week, even though Commissioner Didier has a medical exemption, if he's not wearing a mask, are they not going to be allowed to do business?
We could look at that issue. The problem is, right now, the guidance that we have following LNI guidance is that all the participants, whoever is holding the board meeting, whether it's a city council, a county government, state government, they're the ones that are responsible for ensuring that the participants in the audience are also following the mask mandate. And I think we all agree that, yeah, we don't like that, but that's what we're following for now until addition.
He does have to put himself at medical.
No, we could look at that and we could consider that. But typically, but here's the solution that has been outlined. If people have a concern for their medical condition, then based on what the requirements are right now, that everybody that is in this room be masked, the opportunity then to equally participate is through the remote. That's why we have to, by law, provided by video, provide an opportunity so anybody that does not choose to come to the courthouse has an equal opportunity to participate in these proceedings, just like you were present in the room. So you won't be on video when you're at your home, but you can watch the video and then you could call in and provide the participation just like anybody that is present here. So that's the recommendation, and I would encourage you all to participate that way. If people feel comfortable, then really they should participate right now. The way it is they would participate remote, whether that's in their office downstairs on WebEx, so that they can participate that way. That way the public sees the full participation of the commissioners. That's the way we would conduct the lawful meeting at this point in time. So,
I have a question. So you're telling us that as citizens or elected officials, if we were to have any exemption from a mask, that your standpoint is that our participation must be remote and coming here, because who says all of us are not ADA or WLAD in our life? Who says all of us don't have exemptions medically? None of us have been asked officially. Didier was not asked officially. It is starting this meeting. Everyone is presuming. So I'm looking at this as also a violation from what you're saying, based on ADA and WLAD law, that is law for Washington State and federal, that now I'm hearing that the local prosecutor is capitulating and also not willing to follow the law, which then is harassment against an ADA or WLAD individual.
as I said, right now, the way the law is spelled out, everybody has an opportunity to participate. But here's the problem. If this is done, and I get that there's differing opinions, so don't take what I'm saying. I'm providing you the legal advice and the guidance that essentially flows from the argument. Whether you believe it or agree with it, we could all have our differing opinions. But the thought process is this. If you have a medical exemption from the mask, if the mask mandate was imposed based on the health and safety of others, that masking not only protects the person that's wearing the mask, but it contributes to minimizing the exposure for other employees that you come in contact with. You having a personal exemption, then therefore, what about the person that you come in close contact with as an employer? That's basically saying, hey, look, I've got a medical exemption, because believe me, I want everybody to follow the guidance of their own doctors, whether you're talking about taking vaccines or anything else. So just understand from the law standpoint. So if your medical exemption is that you don't have a mask, that doesn't mean that you are exempt from passing the virus to others, contributing to the health and safety, detrimenting your neighbor or fellow coworker. That is why the ADA guidelines are consistent, that you have equal access to participate fully in the meeting. through remote means. That's why we have to broadcast, we have to televise it. That's why it is also available for people that are participating remotely to phone in, to have just as much equal access to participate. An exemption does not allow you to come in and then basically jeopardize, again, under the theory that what brought about the mask mandates in the first place is that it jeopardizes the health and safety of everybody else around you.
Okay.
And so I agree with you. It does create, don't get me wrong, because I understand what you're saying is that there's always a balancing act. Constitutional rights are always in a balance, because where does your liberty end and where it encroaches on somebody else's liberties? And that's why, hold on. And just, if me as prosecutor, I'm trying to make sure that we are protecting all of those interests. I represent the people of Franklin County, and I have to consider all of those interests, especially now as the employer. I have to make sure that we're following the same guidelines that other businesses. We've heard from several business owners, they hate these guidelines that are imposed on them. Why should Franklin County, as your government, be exempt from following the same laws that are basically obligated upon private business owners in our community?
Then, if you're saying the mask mandate is required to conduct business, even if somebody's ADA do it remotely, then where's the next step? What's the difference between me going to the grocery store under ADA or WLAD, conducting business in a grocery store, which is business that is allowed? What is the difference? I'm around hundreds of people. Based on your theory, your explanation just now, shopping, conducting business, still meeting WLAD, still meeting ADA, and still conducting business.
Okay, if I could, yeah, you're right. So
It can't be picking and choosing, because right now, based on your explanation, okay, next they can say, nope, sorry, just like here, you can't conduct business. You're not allowed to conduct business for your personal business, for grocery shopping, for buying fuel. Where does that line get drawn? And where do we stand, or do you stand on that line being drawn? Because right now, it's sounding very, very slippery from your standpoint, your perspective, the way we're interpreting it.
no, I think we're both on the same point. The issue you brought up too is grocery stores. As you remember, many people objected, and I think I was one of those as well, that if we can go to Walmart, why can't I go to my friends that own a small business downtown Pasco? Because they're not a large store. So I get exactly your point, because now the contrast is, well, Walmart sells groceries. Those are something that food, basic necessities of life, people have to have access regardless of the risk. So that's why they said, well, if you are going to go to these stores, you got to wear a mask. Mask mandate or not. Then what happened was created another option where a lot of you saw the business respond to the law as well, and they created an opportunity where you did not have to go into the store, but you could then have takeout or other services where you didn't have to go to the store. So anyway, again, we could argue for semantics, because what you're basically, no, I'm not skirting the point. My legal obligation is for a legal and lawful meeting for the business of Franklin County. And that's what my focus is. And I agree with you. We could find inconsistencies. We don't have enough time and years to talk about all the consistency of law. So I think you and I can agree that there's very much inconsistency, and we're trying to do the best from our review, consistent with other prosecutors and discussions across the state. I don't make these decisions in a vacuum. I have to constantly bury myself with trying to keep abreast of the interpretations of various laws to be consistent, because you're raising a good point, and I agree with it. We're doing the best we can. Our interpretation is that clearly, for sake of this meeting, for the county business meetings, this board has an obligation to follow the law, which right now is that everybody participating be masked, and that we as a county have to provide individuals an opportunity to participate remotely so they have an equal access as well.
So we're creating second-class citizens,
No.
tiers.
No, because
No, that is creating two tiers, because you do not have the same rights, same availability, same access to representation. Because I can tell you, I watch all these online live. And there's issues that pop up that I physically do not have time to call in and make my comments before things move on, like we do here present in person.
So.
You can always call in. I believe every meeting that we have has, before we conclude business, there's an opportunity for comment. And if you call in, you could be on cue so that our county administrator is aware that we have a caller on the line that has a comment. And it actually, that gives you more access, because if you're a farmer, and I know farmers, it's getting into work time where they're not going to have time to sit here at a meeting for 3 hours, but they could be on their tractor out in their field. They could be on their phone and they could participate. And we've had people do that. And I think it's been very successful. We've actually, whether we like this process or not, it actually has created, I think, more opportunities for participation, because we now have people participate, can now do it remotely. They have equal access to call in and get their comments heard. You could call the commissioners, you could call the county administrator and share your concerns anytime during the week. You could send in your comments via email. These individuals that you have elected to represent you are available. We're just trying to follow the law. And that's my role as county prosecutor. Not at all. Not at all. We are following the law with the best guidance. And again, the great thing is, we talk about Constitution. Washington State is really given a lot of liberty interest. That's why people say, hey, I don't like Washington, I'm moving to Idaho or Montana. Everybody has a choice to pick and choose these experiments of democracy. If you don't like it, I don't want to see that. I was born and raised here in Washington. I want to make Washington better. I want you to participate in making Washington better. If we don't like, thank you. If we don't like how things are run in Olympia, Brad Clippert taught us what we need to do to change that. Again, I don't want to jeopardize the work that's before this board, because if we were to continue with the meeting today, that would put at jeopardy this closed hearing on the land use action. And that's not fair to those parties. It's not fair to other people that may have advocated that they would have come to participate, but once they saw the large crowd of unmasked individuals in the room, that basically shunted their opportunity to participate. So again, you bring up a great point. It's always a balance of interest, and that's what the courts have to do. I am doing my best job to interpret this the best that I can, following guidance from my own review, my internal staff within my office. We talk with other counties, and we try to make sure that we have a good course of action. And I, again, applaud you guys for showing up. I encourage you to get involved in the process, whether that's going to Olympia, sending letters to your representatives, get them to reopen the session so that your voices can be heard. That's a great process. But again, I provided the legal advice, and that's what I do. Sometimes that legal advice is not necessarily my personal thoughts, but again, I have to set that aside. I've given up a lot of personal liberty when I took this job, because now my job is to protect Franklin County and make sure that I'm protecting the taxpayers' money, not getting needlessly challenged, not getting sued, not getting shut down by L&I, and not getting any additional liability against the county, and protecting our workers that work for the county. Because many of them, they have health concerns and issues, as much as you have people that don't like this either. We're not some kind of monolithic thought process here. You have very differing views here in Franklin County. Like any employer knows, you hire people and you have 240 plus employees, you're going to have that. And we have to make sure that we're protecting and following the law for all the employees' sake. So anyway, thank you very much for the question and comment, even though it's not my board meeting, but I'm happy to share with you comments that you have.
Okay, with that, I guess I'll ask one more time. Is there anybody with public comment?
Thank you.
Again, Mike Dietrich, and I'm not sure of this, but one thought process I had was when they talk about overcrowding of hospitals, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know this for a fact, might be third party. I think when the pandemic first hit, Cadillac designated one entire floor for COVID patients. Did anybody think that maybe at this point they've dedicated maybe 10 rooms? And of those 10 rooms, maybe 8 of them are full. So we're at capacity. If that
Play
makes
on
sense.
numbers. Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Another shell game.
Yeah, and that we don't know. Any other public comment?
I only have this to say, from what I understand from HIPAA law, nobody has the right to ask me about my health. When you take away my choice, that's where it ends.
Thank you.
As far as all this
Zoom meeting or all this social media crap, it's just bullshit. Because you have like the planning and building department, you know, there's no actually, you can't go to their meetings and they want you to write in stuff. Well, what does that give them the power to do? Oh, I don't like this. I don't like this one either. Oh, we got 4. So guess what? You don't have a say if you can't be there in person. There's no accountability, and that's exactly why this crap is happening, and they're forcing this stuff through to take away our voices.
Thank you.
And not everyone has access to the damn computer crap.
Anyone else? With that, we will recess till next week. Is that right, Keith? Recess the meeting till next week?
Yeah.
Or do you want to conduct the meeting today? I'm ready to conduct the meeting.
I think you would need the voluntary compliance of the people in the audience to exit the chambers or wear a mask in order to conduct the legal business of the county. There are some time-sensitive things on the agenda, nothing that couldn't potentially be pushed till next week if that's the will of the board. But
Karen, clerk of the board.
Mr. Chair, I would like to have the opportunity as a citizen as well as part of the board. I am a rancher's daughter from Arkansas. So I totally get what everybody in this room feels. However, as our board and as we serve you citizens, you're just kicking the can down the road by not adhering to what the governor has instituted on us. You are hurting those who are trying to get things done in this county. There is a place and a time, and I'm so grateful for each one of you who showed up here today to voice your concerns. I have those same concerns. However, stopping the county business does not help us get Governor Inslee or any other tyrant of a person out. And I agree with Mr. Clifford on how we can go about best doing that. I stand with you 1,000%. But I know if we leave this room that I do the paperwork for next week and people don't show up, mass, the law is still the law and more work won't get done. It's not okay. It's hurting the citizens. It's like the nurses that are being told they have to have the shot and they're leaving. I stand behind them 100%. I have a sister-in-law that felt that way. Who does it hurt? Who does that hurt? All those who need medical attention, as well as those who were in the trenches, who've been there for 18 months for us, and now they're getting hurt. We need to stand up for them. We do need to stand up. I totally agree. Everybody is hurting. Everybody sees it differently. However, the law is the law, whether we like it or not, until we change it. And so we could go 10 weeks. Thankfully, I'm grateful for Rocky, Commissioner Mullen. He doesn't like it. He hates it. I hate it. I have to wear it. It's the law. The sheriff doesn't like the laws that he's been given. He can't apprehend criminals. It's horrible. We feel for him, but his hands are tied. He does the best he can with what he has. And then you try to change the law the right way. It is what it is, and I don't know how you, as a citizen, how you want to go about it. I just know that there does need to be change, and we need to stand up for our rights, but we also have to do it wisely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. I just got a note that the Cadillac Hospital Director is on the line.
Mr. York?
Yeah.
Hi, this is Keith Johnson, the County Administrator. You have the phone for 3 minutes.
Okay, I'll start. I'm not the director of the hospital. That may have been misrepresented. I'm calling as a citizen, but I'm calling primarily because I was on the radio show last week with Mr. Peck, and I believe that was mentioned earlier in this meeting, stating that we were in favor of mandates, and I actually don't recall ever saying anything in that meeting in favor of mandates. What we were trying to do was encourage vaccination and provide education for the public in a forum that allowed people to call in and ask their questions about the vaccines, with hope that with access to better information from a local expert, some people who are persuadable and on the fence about vaccination would make their own choice to receive the vaccine. I think it's important that we recognize that being vaccinated is something that people can exercise their freedom and choose to do. We don't have to only do it if someone tells us to do it. And I believe it's the right thing for every adult to get vaccinated, because it is the only intervention we have that we know will make a very big difference on the overwhelming number of cases we're currently seeing in the hospitals. In addition to that, I did make it clear on the radio that wearing masks when in large indoor gatherings is something that we do know reduces the likelihood of transmission, and I think that's still something that we should be adhering to. So, I would just also add that I think the founding fathers, as I understand it, actually explicitly stated numerous times that the kind of government that they set up, which is essentially a republic with a small, limited government that answers to the people, is a kind of government that really can only be trusted to govern a good and moral people. And I think we all have a responsibility. I think that speaks to responsibility that we have to do the right thing for those that are around us. And that responsibility is part of what maintains our freedoms. So that will conclude my comments.
Thank you. Can I ask your name, please?
Dr. Brian York, Y-O-R-K.
Okay, Brian, thank you very much for that clarity, because that's the way it was not presented last week in the meeting, and I'd encourage you to go back and listen to the tape about your interaction on Kona from that interview. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, Rocky, you want to recess next week, or do you want to conduct business?
I believe in the best interest of the county would be to recess.
Okay. At that will of the board then will be to recess till next week. This meeting is adjourned.